Hello, everybody. We're going to wait a minute while people join us and come on. I'm going to actually look at the public feed here, see if people are joining us. Good. I see Dion's here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to REVERB's Quarantine Kitchen. This is a place where musicians, celebrities, and other interesting folks cook their favorite sustainable dishes right from their own kitchens. This is a live show, obviously. For those who are joining us, we will be looking at your questions and interacting as much as we can. Hi, Angela. How are you doing? And we're going to be having a special guest this evening. Really excited about this. This is our 6th episode. This guest will be cooking for us or baking for us our first dessert. We've never done a dessert before, so we're excited about that. But definitely, I guess I'll tell you a little bit about REVERB while we're waiting for more folks to join in here. We would normally be out on the road. We're a nonprofit environmental organization that normally would be on tour with bands like Billie Eilish and Dave Matthews Band, Tame Impala, and Maroon 5, and many others, greening their tours and engaging fans to take action for people on the planet. But since everything music, as far as live music is concerned, is on hold, we thought we'd bring a little REVERB right to you all. And still considering that everyone's cooking at home, why not have some of our favorite musicians and other folks show us some of their favorite recipes? All right, there are enough people in here right now. I am so happy and pleased to welcome Noelle Scaggs from Fitz and The Tantrums, co-lead singer and boss lady. Noelle, are you there? Come on in.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm here. Hi.
Good to see you.
You too. How's it going?
It's going all right. You know, that's a complex question these days, isn't it? It's going well.
It is. It is. The sun is out today in Nashville, so, it's feeling a lot brighter than, our tech check.
Yeah, exactly. We had a tech check. We were just talking before we went live here how we're actually more nervous doing this than if we were doing a show.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm dealing with knives, chef knives, and pairing things and, trying to cut stuff. So also trying to be engaged and focus on the conversation. I just don't want it to be that one day. This is my training ground.
All right. Yeah, that potential for injury is higher than normally just,
Exactly. Exactly. Falling off stage, stuff like that.
Well, you mentioned this is your training ground, and I assume this is because you're making a reference to Adventures with Scaggs.
Yes. Yes.
I'd love to hear more about that. I actually dug into that a little bit, and it's amazing. It's really cool. It's the sort of thing that bands, our band has always talked about it. We talked to other bands on tour about we see so much and we love food and we travel so much. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we did something with that? But you're actually doing it. We only talked about doing it. You're doing it.
I'm doing. Oh, alarms are going off.
What's that for?
Well, that one's for I kind of cheated and made a round of cobblers because they have to cook for at least 40 minutes. So I didn't want to go over the time and nobody gets to see what's happening. So my timer just went off.
All right.
I'll have to check that in a second.
You need to tend to those? I can
let me go look at the oven.
While you're doing that, I'll show everybody at home.
32.
I'll show everybody at home that I'm wearing an apron. That is my wife's grandmother's that she made. You're also, not only you're the first guest to have a dessert tonight, but you're also the first guest to actually be donning an apron yourself.
I love my aprons. This one is like French cloth. It's like a lot of my grocery bags. I like that kind of linen, soft thing with, it's stylish. Look at you. Gotta look good.
Look at you slipping a little environmentalism into our conversation already when you're talking about reusable grocery bags.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm just checking the cobblers. I'm going to actually salt them quickly. Just give me two shakes. I'll be right. You can still hear me talking.
Yeah. Well, why don't we? If you can still talk to us while you're tending to. I don't want you to ruin your final. I know this is for the ending, so I don't want to ruin what you're doing.
Exactly.
But if you don't mind, if you're able to talk and do that at the same time.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about Adventures with Scaggs and how you started it and why you started it?
So I basically on the road, what I'd been discovering, I was journaling a lot on tour. And I was kind of writing down a lot of the things that I'd been doing, like throughout the day. And what I discovered, my most memorable experiences were based upon restaurants that I had found during my walks. And, on my social media, I was like one of the first people on Instagram. It was like me and Justin Bieber, I think, at the time, and like a couple of photographers, maybe Questlove was on there. But I was taking a lot of photographs of like the scene. If we were in Philadelphia, I'd take photos of the city, right, or I'd take photos of food. I wasn't necessarily taking photos of myself just right, because I was never really comfortable with that. And then, as time had gone by, I started getting more followers. People were like, you should start a food blog. The food that you post is always so amazing. And like fans would DM me and then I started to think about it. And one day I was in New Orleans and I just decided to start this Instagram account called Adventures with Scaggs, because it was kind of like an inside, joke with my friends. We would go out and it'd be like this big adventure with Noelle Scaggs, or like eating adventure, and we'd eat everything in sight. So I became Adventures with Scaggs, and that ended up becoming my journal. So it's like my photo journal. And, when I would be home, I would cook. So I would, throw things up that I was cooking and, doing that kind of thing. But now over the last year, I incorporated Adventures with Scaggs, and it is now a media company.
All right.
That will be focused on creating original content series, very much like this, that focuses on food and travel, because I'm such an avid traveler. I love, hopping on a plane and going places and, meeting new people or going, with friends on trips and stuff like that. But, with always the thought in mind that I'm going to go, find the next thing to eat or the cool cafe to hang out in. And that's what this whole journey has become.
It's so interesting. The more musicians and touring musicians that I talk to, the more I realize that we're all so similar as far as like the things that we're passionate about on tour, the things that make touring like fun and enjoyable to us. It's always about food. It's always about whatever the quirky landmark might be in that town. So it seems like the perfect thing for any musician to do it, but especially you, where you're so passionate about it and actually decided like, I'm going to actually start a business and do this.
It's super. If I'm going to go in, I'm going to go in, and I've had these wonderful opportunities of like, ooh, let me turn this off. The sugar that's on the thing is going to set off my fire alarm. So let me bring these out of the broiler.
You start bringing pots and making stuff fall down in the background and just horrible noises. We're only imagining what you're doing off screen right now.
I'm going to open the door so that I don't set off my nest. That's the only thing about, working with sugar and small containers, with cobblers, they often, kind of boil over. So you like have a smoke filled room when you open up the stove, but those are set. Those are going to cool. I'm going to start, working on these, these peaches, so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing as well while we still talk.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's definitely talk about the recipe. So you're making a peach cobbler for one?
It is called a table for one peach cobbler. And mainly because in these times of having to social distance, I live alone. I still like to, be able to kind of eat like I'm going to restaurants and stuff like that. And, I'm not like a pastry chef. That's not my thing, but I do know how to make a mean pie, and I know how to make mean cobblers. And I've been making this peach cobbler for years. I, mastered what I like in it, how I like to do it. Got some tips from, some chef friends of mine who are really amazing at baking, just on, the crust and stuff like that. So I've been making this for a while. It's one of my friends in LA, my friend Gino. It's like his fan favorite. Like, he loves this peach cobbler so much. We drink it with rosé. We sit out on a patio and pretend we're in the like south of France somewhere, or in the south in Georgia somewhere, just like eating our peach cobbler and stuff. But it's, something that I love to make, and it's very simple. It's, it's easy to do, but, being that I live alone, I make these small batches. So, table for one, you can make it in a little ramekin. You can put the peaches in the fridge. If you decide to do another one the next day, you can whip up the batter. It's very, very easy to do.
That's awesome. So right now you're just slicing up or quartering the peaches?
Yeah, so basically I am taking the pit out, and one of the tricks that I like to do with a peach is a peach has a butt, right? So it does. So you take the edge of your chef's knife and you just kind of cut around, and if for sure your peach is ripe, if you're able to gently twist it off and it gets the pit. And what I do is I take this like kind of peeling knife, it's this curved knife, and I get as close to the pit as possible and take the pit off, because you don't want to lose all the meat. Messing with peaches, they're very fragile. You can lose a lot of the flesh just by cutting them. So yeah, all I'm doing is cutting these, and then I'm just quartering them off. I leave the skin on, so nothing's wasted in this peach cobbler. You can also use, like right now I'm using golden peaches from my favorite peach distributor called the Peach Truck out here in Nashville. These peaches were grown in Georgia. They come out here on, in season, in their harvest, at their prime, every, June, spring, like late spring, early summer. It's my favorite thing to get because they're just so fresh. They're, servicing small farms, and, they're non-GMO, organic. They're beautiful. They taste amazing.
Well, and you're in the right part of the country for peaches right now. So I like to try all the recipes that our guest chefs prepare, but I'm going to have to wait a little bit for peaches to be ripe here in Maine.
Yeah,
we actually planted a peach tree just yesterday in our yard, so I'm excited.
Oh, that's amazing!
I don't think we'll have peaches that I can use just yet, but
yeah,
a couple of years.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've always wanted more land where I could grow more trees that are full of fruit. Mm-hmm. But I also grew up in a house with like loquat trees. I grew up in Pasadena. Okay. And my parents bought this amazing house in Pasadena. This is old Victorian house. They still live in it now. I was like graduating from high school at the time. And it was full of loquat trees and full of citrus trees. And of course, my chores were to pluck the fruit off of said trees. Dad would send me out by myself. I'm like the only child. My stepsister doesn't live with me. She's gone off to college. So I'm forced to, pick the fruit and, labor over it. And, I got to eat it and all that stuff. But it was a lot of work, no salary. It was no like, it was like, you're living here for free. Go pick the trees. There you go. Like that was the bargain.
Child labor.
Exactly. See, Dad. So I got the peaches in here. I'm just going to start this process. So what I like to do is get lime juice, because there's something amazing about acidity and sugar and how it all combines, and it really pops out in the cobbler. It kind of cuts through the sweetness without it becoming too tart. So I put about a tablespoon of lime juice before I do anything else, before I add the sugar, and I just kind of gently toss it. Like, you don't want to beat up your peaches. You really don't. Like, be gentle with them. Have intention with your peaches, because it's the love you put into it. So I just put that in there. And then I'll grab like for this situation, because we're doing a small, I use 6 peaches. It's enough for one person. It'll last me a week or so, maybe more than that. And you put the lime juice in there. I'm just going to use a half a cup of sugar, because when your peaches are ripe, they already have their natural sugars. You don't need to overwhelm them with additional sugars. It's better for your body. You know, people that are, you know, watching their sugar intake. I use organic, you know, sugar cane that you can buy at any Whole Foods. I think Trader Joe's may have their own as well. Everything I use is non-GMO. I haven't had GMO foods since I was, I don't know, maybe 11.
Wow. Interesting.
11 years old.
So you were early adopter of the non-GMO thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was mostly just because of the fact that a lot of the foods that they were buying, you know, they were fresh. They were going to farms. They were supporting people. People were bringing stuff over. I grew up with a family of like caterers and candy makers and, you know, stuff like that. So I think like quality of food was always very, very important to people, but then also like access and the ability to get really good quality food for very inexpensive, you know?
It's interesting how if you go with local farms, that's definitely the way.
Yeah. So, I grew up with that.
So your family. So that was the question I was going to ask: is how did you get into food? Like, how did you learn? Like, I think a lot of people, myself included, are actually just coming to cooking and food preparation now while we're all stuck at home. But it sounds like that's not your situation. You've been doing this for quite a while now.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of had to fend for myself when I would, you know, come home from school. My mom worked. There was a period of time, you know, before she had met my stepfather, she was a single mother. So I, you know, had to kind of figure out how to eat after school, you know, and because I grew up with, you know, people that cooked, I knew how to use the stove. I wasn't going to burn myself. I knew how to do like simple things. I was very fortunate in that way that people showed me how to do things. But as I got older, I had to kind of, you know, figure out, I'm like, I want to do more than just make, you know, spaghetti, you know what I mean? Like, or, you know, I took home ec class. Like home ec was like a big thing in you know, elementary and my early years of, you know, my junior high school years and stuff like that. So I really loved food. So I was always experimenting through college. When I got in my like late 20s, like I was cooking more for myself because I couldn't afford to eat out all the time. You know, like all my friends knew how to cook. You know, I had friends, you know, that had families in their late 20s and stuff like that. So they were cooking for, you know, a full load of people. And I would just learn these different techniques and skills from them, you know. And now in my years of like really getting into my adventures with Scaggs stuff and, you know, kind of showing people how to do things, showing bachelors how to make salmon or showing, you know what I'm saying? Like trying to teach other single people who may not really know how to cook.
Totally.
You know, for one person, cooking for one person is hard. You always over make things, you know, you're always cooking for 4 because every recipe is for 4 people or it's for, you know, for 2. So I always kind of think in this idea of this like table for one, where I'm not wasting all of this food. And if I do big portions, it's things that I can freeze, you know, so I'm not like basically throwing stuff away every week.
Well, that's interesting too, because I imagine, and maybe this is something that, you know, maybe a business idea for you as part of your adventures with Scaggs is, I thought, you know, recipes, obviously you can't just double everything or you can't just half everything or quarter everything because it doesn't always work that way, especially when you're dealing with spices or garlic or, you know, those key ingredients that just don't do well with the math of just simply dividing. So it'd be interesting. That's one of the things I was also really excited about today's recipe is that you're making it for one, because I think there are a lot of folks that are in quarantine alone that want to cook for themselves and are probably struggling a little bit because all the recipes are designed for more than one.
While you're saying that, I just wanted to say what I was doing. So I just put half a cup of sugar into this, and you're going to notice every time I put a new ingredient in, I use my little wooden spoon to toss around and make sure that it's evenly distributed. Do that throughout this process. Trust me, you don't want to just throw everything in there. You want to make sure that the flavors are getting in through. So I'm just now sprinkling 1 teaspoon of cinnamon And I'm going to do the same thing. If you notice, I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, yeah.
The natural juices of the peaches are gently coming out. So this is where you get that cobbler juice, you know?
Yeah.
I used to read recipes when I was first really learning how to make this, and people would put like, you know, you would lose like canned peaches and you would reserve some of the peach juice. Like, why are you doing that? The peaches already have juice, you know, but if you didn't use real peaches, you're not getting that natural juice that's coming out. You're not getting that sweetness. So, you know, this slow and steady wins the race process actually really helps throughout the whole cooking process, because you're getting all the juice that you need. You're not going to get a dry peach cobbler.
Yeah. And that's all your recipe. So just for folks who are following along or want to check out the recipe and do it later, it's all online right now. It's on reverb.org. We have it on our blog post there. There's a link attached to the Facebook post right now, I believe, as well. So just make sure you can check it out. You can follow along now. You did a great job with the recipe too. You were really very specific. Like, layering is important. Don't do it all at once.
I try to be clear about that. It's like, you know, when I'm doing like my adventures with Scaggs, like even recipes, like, you know, I know for some people that know how to cook, the process of me talking about the simplest things may be a little bit much for them and they want to skip through, but there's a reasoning behind it because it's technique. You're teaching people technique. So I'm adding nutmeg. So I got a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, doing the same thing, just very simply using my wooden spoon, going through the process. So just to specify the cinnamon, I don't know if you can see, if you can read that.
Yep.
I don't know how to pronounce this.
Nor I. But it's in the recipe.
Corintige. I don't know. So somebody's going to know how to pronounce this, but this is the cinnamon that I use. It is an Indonesian cinnamon. And I specifically use that one because the flavor has a bit of sweetness to it. It's a little stronger. You don't have to use a ton of it, but it's really impactful. I don't really love Ceylon, that other one that you put in apple cider.
Right.
Like people use that for apple cider. That's not my thing. So I bake with this.
For those that don't have that or can't find it, would regular cinnamon work?
Yeah, regular cinnamon would totally be fine. You can totally do that.
But it's
the same. I don't find it as appealing.
Right.
But if you cannot find this, then total regular cinnamon is completely fine. They're all the same class.
There's a question from one of the viewers that I wouldn't mind throwing at you.
Sure. Yeah.
This is from Angela King. She was wondering if you're making any new music during this quarantine time, because your messages are always so positive. We could use more of that right now.
I mean, I live in Nashville, so I've really been working on my own here at the house. I gotta be quite honest. You know, when things really started, our tour was cut short. I just added cardamom. Our tour got cut short. You know, we had to cancel 2 of our shows. We were kind of in the middle of, you know, figuring out if it would be responsible for us to cancel ahead of time or let things play out and see where they were going. You know, it was very uncertain times for COVID when it started. You know, it seemed like everything was kind of happening very quickly. We were hearing about it, but there was not a lot of news or information because it was happening. So, you know, we're on tour and, you know, we're ending our tour and, you know, getting a text message from our tour manager, show's canceled tonight. We're on hold for tomorrow, you know, and then it was an hour or 2 later. Everybody can go home who wants to go home tonight. And everybody who wants to stay, we're driving, you know, at 11 o'clock tonight. This is what time we're leaving. So it's just kind of this very weird, you know, experience. So when I got home to Nashville, I saw a bunch of my friends. I had a party here, not a party, but like a barbecue that I had planned for months. And I had a lot of people drop off because they, you know, were being very conscientious of being around people and, you know, stuff like that. I didn't want to write anything. I didn't want to think about writing. I didn't want to think about music. I was trying to wrap my head around what was going on because everything started happening so fast. I was not inspired to write. And it took me a month to get into my studio. And in that month, it was 2 weeks of me wrapping my head around the technology again, because I had to engineer everything by myself again. So getting on Logic and like figuring out the quirks of the new updated Logic that I hadn't touched in 2 years on my own. You know, I was
computer hell.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I need a new laptop. This laptop doesn't even pull up my plugins anymore. So it was like this whole thing. So, you know, I'm just starting to really get back into the writing process. I've been waking up at 6 a.m. with, you know, crazy melodic ideas and getting back on piano and relearning theory because I have all this time, you know. So that's what I've been doing. Fitz has been, you know, doing radio sessions from his house. Our drummer's keeping his business going with, you know, Drum Coffee in Missoula. Our drummer, John Wicks, has his own coffee brand and company in Missoula, Montana. So he's been doing that. You know, other guys have been, you know, kind of working from home and doing sessions and stuff like that. But it's a very bizarre time.
Are you all in different locations? Are you spread around?
Myself and John are the only two that don't live in LA.
Okay.
All the other guys are in Los Angeles.
Yeah. It makes it hard. I don't know how do you guys write? Like, do you write as a band? Do you write individually and then bring ideas in? Like, how does that work for you?
It depends on it just kind of random. The song, you know, I come up with a lot of ideas on my own. I work better in environments where there's only like one other person. Not everybody's like that. Like they can write in a room with like 5 people. I just can't do it. Neither can Fitz. Nice. So for me, like, it's like either myself and Fitz get together and we work on stuff together. Or I send him an idea that, you know, I was muddling around with that I felt would sound good on him, and I'll send it to him and he'll say yay or nay.
Right.
He's feeling it or not, or I'll be like, you're going to sing this anyway because I want to see if it works.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And vice versa. So we do that. We collaborate with other people. It's been this really interesting kind of progression with me moving here. And let me put the sugar away before I throw it in my dough. I'm working on the dough now while we're talking. So I just put 1 cup of sugar. The peaches are done. So they're sitting. They're going to marinate in that juice for a little bit. I'm starting the flour process now. Now this is kind of a batter that we're creating. That is just very simple. It's baking powder, it's salt, it's flour. And because I wanted to be conscientious of people that, you know, may not be into dairy. The regular recipe calls for 1 cup of milk. So if you're into dairy, you can do that. Organic milk. I'm using, you know, for this recipe, I tried using like a nut-based milk, and I found like Oatly oat milk or a good macadamia nut milk is the best for this because it has a creaminess to it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say the Oatly brand specifically because their barista blend is the best in the market. I'm sorry, it really is. You get the richness that you need from it. It's not ideal if you're thinking about what, you know, what's in it, but it's not GMO, so I give them that. But yeah, so I'm starting with the flour. I'm gonna put in the baking powder, which is 3 teaspoons. So basically, is that half? I have to do math. It is a half tablespoon, I believe.
I'll take the word for it. I don't know.
I had to like do the math in my head because I'm cutting everything in half. So three teaspoons is what I'm doing here. Where is it? There we go. Is that right? I have to check. I also have to check my own instructions, guys.
Yeah.
I'm used to doing this from my mind.
I don't want to distract you, because otherwise that's one way this show could go, where it's like, I'm going to pepper you with questions and you have to try to accomplish this recipe without totally fucking it up.
Exactly.
It's kind of like
3 teaspoons.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, also, if you want to concentrate now, we can also kind of give some shout outs to some charities that every guest we ask, hey, are there any charities beyond Reverb? Reverb's a nonprofit too, but are there any charities in particular that you're excited about, especially food related? And you gave us a few. Frontline Foods is one of them. I think we can throw up the URL right now.
Yes, they're amazing. They have been teaming up with local restaurants. I should say, I forgot one thing with the peaches, and I'll do it after. They are supporting local businesses and our healthcare heroes by feeding our healthcare heroes, and also, paying for meals through local restaurants that have had to shut down due to COVID. And they've been able to feed a lot of people through this process. So every, bit of your donation goes towards providing meals for caregivers and also supporting local restaurants who deliver the food to these health caregivers. So that's an amazing one that I've been supporting for a little while. Another one that you'll get is called the Lea Initiative. And I learned about this one through a chef friend of mine here in Nashville named Sarah Gavigan. She is owner of a small business called Otaku Group, and she focuses on Japanese, street style cuisine. So your ramen, your, Japanese street food, like that's her thing. She's opening up a boba shop here in Nashville very soon. She's a wonderful friend of mine. She is one of my heroes. I just love, she's just so intelligent and so sweet. So she was talking about the Lea Initiative on her coffee talk that she's been doing on her Instagram. And they are focused on feeding people within the hospitality industry and also raising money for restaurants that, are on the brink of extinction because they can't open their doors. They're either too small, they can't do the social distancing in their dining rooms because of the fact that they're too small. So they're really trying to protect these local small businesses, here in Nashville. The company, the organization is based out of Kentucky, I believe. So that's another thing. They're advocates for, really promoting more women chefs as well. And female, chefs within the hospitality industry, but specific to chefs, and really, working towards that. So that's two really great initiatives to not only help your local communities, but to, help keep these places on the ground. Cause we're going to, it makes me sad, but we're going to lose a lot of businesses because of what's going on. So trying to be conscientious of people that are really focused on putting good food in people's bellies and supporting local farmers, and, got to work together on that.
That's great. And both those links, one of them's up now, and we put them both up, but those links are also hopefully in our post, and they will be if they're not now. So for those who are watching, please, if you're able to donate to those organizations, that would be wonderful. So where are we at now, Noelle?
So I got the flour, the salt, and the baking powder in here. I put 1/8 teaspoon, so basically a pinch of salt, y'all. Pinch of salt into the dry. You don't really have to do much. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my macadamia nut milk, or whatever your preference of liquid is. You want to make sure that it's just moist. But the thing I'm finding about nut milk is you may have to add a little bit extra. You want this to be a batter. So you want it to, have some liquid nature.
Mm-hmm.
Think of like a good, kind of pancake batter. Some people want it crumbly, so you can go a little bit drier. But please just make sure that the flour is moist and don't overwork it, because you don't want it to come out hard.
Never overwork the flour, ever.
Never overwork the flour.
For
me, I'm going to add just a hair more, this macadamia nut milk because I want it to be a little bit more wet. Next thing we're gonna do after this is I need to add vanilla to my peaches because I forgot to do that.
I apologize.
It's okay. That was my bad. I I was like, wait, I didn't put any vanilla in here. It's not going to taste as good as I wanted to. 3/4 teaspoons of vanilla extract is what I use for this.
All right. Now, is it possible to ask a few other music-related questions while you're cooking, or should we?
Yes. No, go for it.
So all the feels. I checked it out. I've obviously heard the singles, and I guess one just recently made top 10. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting.
It is awesome. That's so great.
Very exciting.
I'm trying to think of when I think we first crossed paths on tour. I think it was us. It was Guster, Maroon 5, and you all, Fitz and Tantrums.
Yeah.
I think it was Summerfest in Milwaukee.
That was our first really big thing.
Oh, wow. See, that's so funny.
Opening for Maroon 5, and you guys, it was like our first big tour. We were getting paid well. It was great because we were an indie band. We didn't even have a deal yet. We didn't even have a record deal. Wow. We were really grinding it out, spinning through our savings, trying to make stuff happen. And that was a really, big moment for us, and doing Summerfest in Milwaukee. And, me just having the pleasure of watching, I'm a fan of Maroon. I always have been. So it was pretty amazing just watching Adam do his thing every night. But then also just how nice everyone was, because touring can be tough.
It's a good circle. Well, it's interesting. For those who don't know, Summerfest, it's quietly the largest music festival in the world, at least the country, maybe the world.
Yes, maybe the world.
Which is interesting. There was a run there where I feel like we played it every year for 2 decades. But
we've played it. We've done a lot of Milwaukee.
I love Milwaukee.
I love Milwaukee. I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. I feel right at home. Going to Wisconsin, yelling "Go Pack, Go" on stage, having people cheer. It's amazing.
So a little bit back to all the feels. So listening to that record compared to the music that I was familiar with when I first saw you, play. Now I've learned that it's one of the earlier shows of your band.
Yeah.
I noticed, the band has been described as indie pop soul influenced, and I was interested, and I'm wondering if you agree with my assessment that the latest record is a little bit leaning more towards that indie pop than soul.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had this evolution for a very long time. One could easily say that, we drifted off at the second record. We still had the nostalgia about the music that, that we started with, when we were first doing Picking Up the Pieces, which was the first record. It was really played off of the EP that Fitz created, and when we became a band, things just kind of started to transcend. We really wanted to make sure that we were modernizing what we were doing, and we didn't want to be pigeonholed as a band as well. We have so many influences, and I grew up in the era of hip hop when it's thriving, thriving. Tupac, Biggie, who else was there? I was into all of the New York underground, Black Moon, Helta Skelta. I was Mobb Deep. I was KRS-One. I could go on for days. And I was working with a lot of hip hop artists at the time too. Black Eyed Peas. I was all over Dilated People's records. So we really wanted to make sure that we were catering to ourselves as artists, and
that's crucial. You have to.
Yeah, you have to.
You can't. That's always a challenge that we also face with Guster, where are the fans going to come with us? It's we just have to make what we like, and hopefully those, fans will come with us, and we might lose some, gain some, but you have to, if you're not enjoying what you're making, you're not, at the end of the day, we're artists and we have to make art that we're pleased with. Otherwise it's not going to come across as authentic anyway. So I meant to put on top of all of this commentary that I love your latest record. I think All the Feels is fantastic. And
Thank you.
I love that it's 17 tracks. You just was there any reason behind the length of it?
Because nobody's making records. Yeah. And then also it was a matter of, we had 17 songs that were good enough to be on a body of work.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to cut them. And it comes down to that. And, sometimes you have a record that's short. Sometimes you have the 10 song record. We've done that. We've done the EPs. Just so I'm walking you guys through this, I'm getting this ready. I just put this in a gratin dish. A gratin dish because it's table for one. You can use ramekins as well. You can just spoon the peaches in, put your batter, put your butter on top. With the ramekins, I highly recommend taking the butter that you're going to use. It's basically a quarter cup of butter that you're slicing into like 1-inch slices. But with ramekins, because you're using, such small volume, I highly recommend just kind of breaking up the butter and putting it in the batter and spooning the batter on top. Like, you don't want to stir the butter into the batter. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in the oven because it takes 45 minutes.
Is this the cooking show magic moment we've been talking about?
Yeah.
45 minutes are passing.
So that's, I'm gonna work on, my presentation here, because I got like sugar coated ramekins, candied ramekins from the boil over. And then I also want to use this thing. Any other questions you want to ask while I'm off camera?
Well, the biggest question I want to ask you right now is, we were talking about when we have this final presentation and have a little taste, hopefully. You were mentioning that rosé is a drink that you like to have it pairs nicely with your dish. Do you have any rosé with you?
I do.
All
and
right.
I have a very specific rosé for this that I'm going to pull out for you. It is called Maroon Rosé. You can also use Whispering Angel Rosé. I find these two rosés to be the better thing for the peach. Doesn't overpower, good dryness. You're getting that stone fruit from that.
You also suggested, I don't have any rosé at home, and you thought it would be acceptable to do a cider, a dry cider. So something I've been enjoying a lot lately is this pear secco. It's actually a pear cider, and it's delicious, and it is dry. I don't like the stuff that's too sweet. I imagine this would be going very well with your peach cobbler. I wish I could taste it. I'll have to do it vicariously right now, as we all will be, as we are waiting with bated breath.
Let me get this thing in the oven. 2 seconds. Well, actually, I can do that one later. But this is, not ideal. This would normally be cleaned off before I present it to my guests, but I threw it. Basically, I baked it for 40 minutes, and then it's really a total of 45 minutes that you're going to do this. You throw it in the broiler. You sprinkle a bit of sugar and some salt. I use Malden sea salt, flake salt, because it holds its form when it gets the heat.
Yeah, can you get that? And can you get a nice close up of that?
I can try. Yeah.
I guess I don't want you to jump around the computer.
Yeah, because I'm using nut-based milk, the batter is a little bit thicker than it would normally be for me with cream, where it'd be a little bit flakier, and that's the way of the world. So that's what that looks like. It's got, it's buttery goodness. It's, small table for one thing.
Looks incredible. Is it too hot? Are you gonna be able?
No, it's been overcooling. Normally, I let it sit for 3 minutes before I even put whipped cream, which I made. I made whipped cream ahead of time because I was like, we're not gonna have time for me to do the whipped cream tutorial. So I saved these little mason jars. There's this like French pudding company. It's my other one little single sweet treat I buy, and it's like pot de creme. So I've been saving these little jars, and I put my whipped cream in these jars. And when I do, cobbler, I just spoon on the thing. Awesome. And I'm not, because they're glass, I'm not using all this plastic and stuff like that. I can just salvage them.
That's great. I also noticed that the band's selling a reusable bottle on their online store, which is awesome. So kudos to you for encouraging reusables that way too.
We're trying. It's hard. It's hard out there on those tour buses. You got a lot of people we're traveling with, and touring in the summertime is no fun. You got to have water. This is Mirabelle. As you can see, it's half gone.
Yep.
I recommend a full bottle.
Nice. Noelle, we'll talk later about how Reverb can help your tour with those water bottles. Don't you worry.
Yes.
We got your back.
Thank you. We're trying. I got reusable cutlery and things like that. Plates and stuff. I'm getting my rosé in first.
Yeah, this is it. We're at the last couple of minutes of the show right here. Well, I would love to do a cheers and a taste and we'll send everybody on their way. But this is awesome. Thanks so much for doing this, Noelle.
Oh, you're welcome. So yeah, be generous with your homemade whipped cream. And homemade whipped cream is very simple. It is whipping cream, organic whipping cream, and like a 1/4 teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, and you whip it until you get those soft peaks. I'm just adding a little sprinkle of cinnamon, and
you're not messing around.
Yeah, there you go, guys.
Yes, peach cobbler for one.
This is the early batch, so anything could happen with this one.
Right.
That was the rush batch.
Are you going to give us that vicarious taste and so we can all wish that we were right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can kind of see already that I rushed through this process, but so you can see.
I wish I could eat that right now. Oh, there it is.
That's good.
I bet.
It's really good.
Cheers. Thanks, Noelle. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks to everybody who's following along right now on Reverb's Quarantine Kitchen. If you tuned in late or if you want to share this with other friends, you can go to our Facebook page. It's also at reverb.org/quarantine kitchen. All of our episodes are there. We're archiving all of those and the recipes along with them. So please check them out. I've been making every recipe so far, and they've all been really great. And I'm sure your peach cobbler is going to be at the top of my list. I can't wait to try it. Thank you.
I love it.
Fitz and The Tantrums. Good luck with everything. I hope we keep in touch. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Quick shout out to Dion. She is like one of our biggest fans. She's been to every show. So thank you for tuning in, Dion.
Yeah, totally. I think this is her like dream situation because I think she's topped some crazy number of shows too. So
she's amazing.
She's been putting in there. It's like, when are you guys going to play together? You need to tour together.
Always good energy. Always bringing great people. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Noelle. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Adam.
For sure. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah.